Hey, Good Fox here. I want to talk about thresholds in MLB The Show 18 and why I think it's not a good idea. And basically what a threshold is. Let's go through. This is from an SDS stream. This is some gameplay of them showing the same hit's going to happen every single time. This is an elite fielder first off the bat. So thresholds. What if you're above a certain fielding stat? You're going to make this great play, and you're going to do it very frequently. Ramon said out of 10 times you'll get it 8 out of 10. So you won't get it every time still, but basically there are three thresholds he talked about. There's the very good, the medium, and the bad fielders. So now I think a lot of people that are on this channel that play Madden, the number one thing many of us talk about that we want to remove from the game next year is thresholds. We just got them put into the game this year. Now I appreciate as much as the next person the ability to put in a definite outcome into a game. Now 80% isn't a definite outcome, which is another issue all in itself. So it's not actually like it's not going to happen. There's a lot of random chance in baseball. If you thought randomness was bad in Madden, it's way worse in this MLB The Show. You'll get very frustrated. I rage myself. So in MLB, though, I think they're making, and SDS is making the same mistakes Madden did. Now, it's a good idea going in. Like I said the same thing about collectibles in my Diamond Dynasty video. They're not learning lessons from other sports games about what the customer's feedback is going to be. Now, with thresholds in Madden and the zone coverage threshold, you're basically throwing at that. If you throw the ball 50% of the time, you're throwing at it 50% of the game. If you do more, like me, if I pass around 70% of the time, and so on and so forth. So fielding, in my opinion, is 20% of the game. Whatever. So it's not as big a deal. How I break that down is fielding and hitting 50%, pitching and fielding 50%, fielding or hitting and running 50%. So hitting, I'd say it's 40%, running 10%, fielding 20, pitching 30. I don't know. It's close enough. It's probably not exactly that. But anyway, so fielding isn't going to be it's not as big of a thing as, say, pass defense, and the threshold's there, or the power move threshold for defensive linemen, and you guys know the route running threshold, the ball carrier move threshold. So the thresholds in Madden are much more, I would say, ingrained in the game. So this is just on fielders, and they said it's just on middle infielders right now. They're working on coding for third base. Now, I'm not so sure about first base, because they said if you place an out-of-position player at first base, they're going to drop it every time. Now, is that lowering the fielding threshold below the bottom threshold on fielding? Is that something that came? I don't know how they did it. Probably just like a command: if he's out of position, drop it every time, or drop it at 80% of the time, so on and so forth. So the issue here, after the cards hit the threshold, why pay for better cards in Diamond Dynasty? Now, in regular mode, in regular head-to-head, franchise isn't as big of a deal until you got to improve those players. So it is kind of a big deal if you choose what to improve. And then once you get to fielding that threshold, then you don't need to improve it anymore. Kind of nice to get that. The thing is, and we'll get to not knowing what the threshold is in a second. So basically, in Diamond Dynasty, we're investing all these coins stubs into cards. Once we hit that there's no point to upgrading. After that, everything's playing the same in the field. So it basically takes the mode of Diamond Dynasty, I'm guessing putting most of the resources into, based on what I saw with Online Franchise and Road to the Show, lack of improvements. So a lot of these cards, it's like there's going to be no individualism in these ball players because of the threshold issue. And that's the biggest part of the issue we've seen in Madden. We're like, why upgrade over 91 zone when everything above it's basically going to break in the ball the same? So I would prefer just to give it like a percent-based chance at making that play on the stat number. So make it more granular. You can obviously assign percentages to thresholds, so why not just make more thresholds than the 3 you have? Now, maybe they're thinking, maybe they're doing this, maybe they're adding on, and they thought about this already. This is what they've told us is going to be in the game, and that's what I'm most concerned about. So besides for what else the threshold and not knowing what the thresholds are going to be, like Ramon wasn't very open about these thresholds, which makes me nervous. And I know why they do it, so that they can change it later on. So they can say, all right, well, I don't know if people think that fielding threshold's a little high, let's lower it, but we didn't tell them, so it doesn't matter. Like, they'll have to figure it out on their own. So basically, they're giving us this definite this threshold, you're going to make these plays, but then they're not giving us the information. So they're basically changing it, and kind of eliminating the whole reason for thresholds in the first place, to give a definite outcome and to let us know, and for us to understand which fielders to get to reach it and whatnot. So I know that other reason was because lower end fielders are making the same animations as high end fielders. But again, you don't need thresholds to do that. You can do that through more granular means, and I hope maybe it's not too much more complicated, too much more code to do that, to make every stat point matter. So that way, if you got a guy with I don't know, 82 fielding. He plays better than a guy with 75 fielding. And so, I don't know. I guess the tip that I can give all of you is if you have a fielder in the middle infield that's making amazing plays early in the year, I wouldn't worry about upgrading the fielding, and make sure and try and get guys that field well early in the year at second base and shortstop. Third base, it doesn't seem at this moment it matters very much unless they end up, like they said, updating it later and patching it in. Then third base fielding will make more of a difference. So that's it. Please let us know what the thresholds are if this is something you're going to do. That's my biggest call to action here is please, 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 we need to know what these are and any other thresholds in the game. Just knowing what the stats are makes such a difference to us, and I am not going to belabor that point anymore. That is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thanks for watching Call to Action. I will see you tomorrow.